Okay, thank you, Bhuvan. Is screen visible to you? Okay. So good morning. Today I will be talking about a topic known as viral hepatitis. So this is the last session in this system, and this session will cover the competency which is related to viral hepatitis, in which I will be discussing about the various viruses which are responsible for hepatitis and their clinical feature, their morphology, pathogenesis, epidemiology, and laboratory diagnosis, with a little bit about treatment and prophylaxis. So, given to a condition in which there is a inflammation of liver. Okay, so whenever there is an inflammation of a liver, we call it hepatitis. Now, this term viral hepatitis is specifically given to the primary infection of the liver by any one of a heterogeneous group of hepatitis viruses, which are type A, B, C, D, and E. Okay, so there are basically five types of hepatitis viruses: type A, type B, type C, D, and E. These viruses are generally hepatotropic and they cause the primary infection of liver, leading to inflammation. Okay, so these viruses are leading to a condition known as hepatitis, and the term is known as viral hepatitis. So this term is only given to the infection which is caused by these five type of viruses. So these viruses are basically, if you see the identical features of these viruses, they are hepatotropic in nature, and that is they are primarily causing infection of liver, and secondary they are causing histopathological lesions which are almost identical, and also the clinical picture that is produced by these viruses is almost similar. So on the basis of histopathological lesions and clinical picture, it is very much difficult to differentiate between these five viruses. Okay, so the diagnosis very much depends upon the laboratory diagnosis and the serological markers, because these viruses are causing similar kind of histopathological lesions and similar kind of clinical illnesses. Now, beside these viruses, there are other viruses also that can cause hepatitis, but are primarily causing infections of some other system. And during the course of their illnesses, they sometimes cause hepatitis. So these viruses are yellow fever, Epstein-Barr virus, cytomegalovirus, herpes simplex virus, varicella zoster, rubella, and enteroviruses. Okay, so question might be asked to you that what are the other cause hepatitis beside hepatitis viruses A, B, C, D, and E. So these are basically the other viruses: yellow fever, EBV, cytomegalo, herpes simplex, VZV, rubella, and some enteroviruses that can cause sporadic hepatitis. Okay, so but the primarily viral hepatitis is caused by these five viruses that I told you. So if we see the various differentiating features and different characteristics of these viruses, we can see that these viruses belong to different families. As you can see that hepatitis A virus, it belongs to family Picornaviridae. Hepatitis B virus, it belongs to Hepadenaviridae. HCV belongs to Flaviviridae. HDV is unclassified, and HEV, it is the Calciviridae like, and it is also one of the unclassified viruses. So, what does it tell? That all these viruses are taxonomically unrelated. Okay. So, ऐसा नहीं है कि सारे hepatitis cause कर रहे हैं, so they are grouped together taxonomically. It is not like that. All the viruses, they are taxonomically not related. HAV, it belongs to genus Hepatovirus. Okay, there is a genus Hepatovirus in Picornaviridae family to which HAV is assigned. Okay, then HBV, it belongs to genus Orthohepedina virus. HCV, it belongs to Hepasi virus. HDV belongs to Delta virus, HEV, Hepy virus. Okay, so these are the various genus of different hepatitis viruses. If we see the genome, then except HBV, all other viruses are RNA virus. Okay, so hepatitis B virus जो है that is DNA virus, while HAV, hepatitis C, hepatitis D, and hepatitis E viruses are RNA viruses. If we see the age group affected by these viruses, hepatitis A mainly and commonly cause infection of children, followed by young adults. HBV, HCV, and hepatitis D virus can affect any age group, okay, but more common in adults. HBV can also cause infection in in neonates and children, so it is also common in childhood. And hepatitis E virus, it is more common in young adults. If we see the route of transmission, then hepatitis A virus is transmitted by fecal-oral route. Similarly, HEV, that is hepatitis E virus, it is also transmitted by fecal-oral route. Okay, so hepatitis A and hepatitis E will be transmitted by fecal-oral route, whereas hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and hepatitis D, they can be transmitted by parental transmission or by sexual transmission or vertical transmission by during the perinatal period. Okay, so the main thing that you should remember that HAV and HEV are the viruses which are transmitted by fecal-oral route. Okay, while rest of the viruses like HBV, HCV, and HDV, they are transmitted by mainly by parental transmission. Incubation period is around 15 to 45 days in hepatitis A virus, and it is also 14 to 60 days in hepatitis E virus. Whereas incubation period is around 30 to 180 days, almost 6 months in hepatitis B virus, and around 15 to 160 days in hepatitis C virus. Okay. Then, if you talk about fulminant disease, then fulminant disease is rare in hepatitis A, B, C virus. It is frequent as compared to other viruses in HDV infection, whereas in hepatitis E virus infection, it is usually rare. But during pregnancy, the fulminant disease is more common in case of hepatitis E virus. Okay, so it is around 20 to 40% in cases of pregnancy. When the pregnant women is infected with hepatitis E virus, then the chances of fulminant disease is around 20 to 40%. So if we see the chronicity, now chronic infection is not there in hepatitis A and hepatitis E, the one which are transmitted by fecal-oral route transmission. Chronicity is generally not seen in hepatitis A and hepatitis E, but chronicity is seen more commonly in hepatitis C and then hepatitis B and D. Okay, so chronic infection will be present in hepatitis C virus infection and hepatitis B and hepatitis D virus infection, whereas it will be absent in hepatitis A and E. Okay. Similarly, these hepatitis B and C viruses infections are also associated with the increased risk of liver cancer. So, liver cancers are mainly associated with hepatitis B and C. Okay, they are not associated with hepatitis A and hepatitis E, and also not with the hepatitis D. So, they are more commonly associated with hepatitis B, followed by hepatitis C. So, these are the various distinguishing features between all the hepatitis viruses. The main point to remember is that all the viruses, they are taxonomically unrelated. They belong to different genus. Except hepatitis B virus, all the viruses are RNA virus. Hepatitis B virus is a DNA virus. And the route of transmission in hepatitis A and hepatitis E is the fecal-oral route transmission, whereas in hepatitis B, C, and D, it is mainly parenteral followed by sexual and vertical transmission. Okay, and chronicity, chronic infections are mainly present in hepatitis C, hepatitis B, and also in hepatitis D. Okay. Now, hepatitis A is also known as the infections caused by hepatitis A is also known as infectious hepatitis. These are the common name. For hepatitis B, it is serum hepatitis. And hepatitis C and E are also known as non-A, non-B. It means this is a term which is given to the hepatitis not caused by hepatitis A or B. So HCV is caused by parental transmission. So it is also known as non-A, non-B or post-transfusion hepatitis. And hepatitis E is also included in non-A, non-B, and it is a enterically transmitted hepatitis. So this is a table which summarizes the various features of these hepatitis viruses. So now coming to the hepatitis A virus first, as I told you, it is a RNA virus. Okay, so the virion diameter is around 27 to 32 nanometer, and it is a non-enveloped virus. It does not have an envelope. Okay, it belongs to Picornaviridae family. Most of the members of Picornaviridae family, they do not have envelope. Okay, and as I told you, the RNA is there, and it is a single-stranded RNA genome, and it is a positive sense. Okay, and there is only one serotype of hepatitis A virus, and this is the only human hepatitis virus that has been cultivated in vitro. Okay, so this virus can be cultivated in vitro. Then, if we see some other chemical and physical characteristics, then HAV is inactivated by heating at 60 degree for 1 hour and boiling for 1 minute. It is also susceptible to certain disinfectants such as formaldehyde and hydrochloride. This is a picture showing electron microscope pic findings in which you can see the various particles of hepatitis A virus. Okay. So if we see the epidemiology, hepatitis A, it can occur as a sporadic case or it can occur as an outbreak. Whenever there is an outbreak, there is basically a single source outbreak. When there is a single source of food or drinking water or milk which is contaminated with the virus, when there is a fecal contamination, then single source outbreaks are generally common. In the developing countries, the infection is acquired in childhood. Now, in developing countries, probably due to poor sanitation, poor hygiene, the infection is very much acquired early phase of life, and it is generally said that by the time the child becomes 10 years of age, most of the children in the developing countries they get infected, naturally infected, get infected by hepatitis A. In India, it is the most common cause of acute hepatitis in children. Okay, so developing countries में जो infection है that is generally acquired in childhood, but there is a shift in acquisition of infection in developed countries. Developed countries में the disease is generally acquired during young adulthood. So there is a shift, okay. But in developing countries, the infection is acquired in most of the infections are acquired in childhood. So if we see the pathogenesis, the route of transmission, as I told you, it is a fecal-oral route transmission. The virus will enter through oral route and it will reach the epithelium and it will multiply in the epithelium of the intestine. Then through hematogenous spread, it will go into the liver and meanwhile it will also be shed in the feces. Okay, so in the liver, the virus will multiply, it will cause inflammation and it will produce certain symptoms such as jaundice. So, like this, the virus is reaching the liver and causing infection, and meanwhile, uh, this virus is also being shed in the feces. So, it is generally shed in the feces before the 2 weeks and after the 2 weeks of appearance of jaundice. So, there is a duration for which the virus is shed in the feces and can be detected by various tests. So this can be used for the laboratory diagnosis of this virus. So if we see the incubation period, it is around 15 to 45 days. As I told you, most of the infections are acquired in children. And in children, majority of infections are subclinical. Okay, and if the clinical features are there, then it is generally in two stages. One is the pre-icteric phase in which the child or a young adult in which the symptoms are produced will present with vague symptoms such as anorexia, nausea, vomiting, abdominal tenderness, then followed by period of jaundice. Okay, and when the icteric stage will come, then these symptoms will disappear. In children, generally, the clinical picture is mild and an icteric phase is generally absent in children. So the ratio of an icteric phase to the icteric phase is more in children. Okay. So 80 to 90% will not produce any symptom, and those who are producing symptom, they are mild and most of them are anectic. But in young adult, clinical symptoms will be there. There will be pre-icteric phase followed by icteric stage. So most of the hepatitis viruses, they mainly present with these two symptoms. First, there will be followed by an incubation period, there will be a pre-icteric phase followed by icteric phase. So acute, in generally acute infection, these two stages will be there. Now, in adult, it is generally seen that fulminant hepatitis may occur. Fulminant का मतलब है कि the liver failure is occurring very abruptly and there is a progressive deterioration of the patient. So it is a fulminant liver failure which is occurring, and it is rare, but when it occurs, it mostly occurs in adult, and it is around less than 0.1%. So this is the graph showing how the symptoms, the relation between the symptoms and the antibodies which are produced in hepatitis A virus infection. So after a period of incubation period, symptoms will be produced like, as I told you, icteric and jaundice. Before that, virus can be seen in blood when the virus is spreading from intestine to liver. So there is a brief phase of viremia also. Okay. Then virus is being shed in feces also in the early phase of infection. And after, here you can see after 2 to 3 weeks, there is a rise of IgM antibodies. So first of all, IgM antibodies will be produced, and shortly after the production of IgM antibodies, IgG antibodies will be produced. And IgM antibodies will reach the peak 6 weeks after the exposure, and generally 4 to 6 months it reaches the baseline. But IgG, it persists for life, okay, for decades, and it might persist for lifelong period. So IgM, presence of IgM along with IgG, it is representing mainly the recent infection, and presence of IgG only represents presence of past infection or immunity. Okay, so this is how the we can differentiate between the recent and the past infection in case of hepatitis A virus. So laboratory diagnosis, the specimen that we can take blood, we can take serum or feces. Blood may we can detect virus, serum may we can detect antibodies, and we can also see virus or viral antigen in the feces. So serology is the mainstay for the laboratory diagnosis of hepatitis A. As I told you, IgM antibody, it is the first antibody that will appear. So it is mainly the antibody which can differentiate between the current or past infection. If the IgM antibody is there, it means there is a recent or current infection. Okay. IgG antibody, it basically tells that there is an infection. Now we cannot differentiate whether it is a recent infection or it is a past infection. And when the patient has recovered and there is an immunity, then also there is a presence of IgG antibody. Okay. So IgM antibody detection is must for the diagnosis of current or recent infection. Now there are different modalities. ELISA kits are generally available for the detection of these antibodies. Commercially, they are available. Direct demonstration of virus can be done in, as I told you, in fecal abstract by electron microscopy, but electron microscopy, again, it is not available everywhere. So practical utility is not there, but we can detect these virus particles through electron microscopy also. Then culture, as I told you, this is the only hepatitis virus that can be cultured in vitro, and human cell line and fetal monkey cell lines have been used. But again, culture is very cumbersome and it cannot be used for laboratory diagnosis. It is not generally used for laboratory diagnosis. And then PCR molecular methods can be performed in which viral RNA can be detected from feces by RT-PCR or real-time PCR. Okay, so this is how the laboratory diagnosis of hepatitis A virus infection is done. Now coming to the prophylaxis, both active and passive immunization is available. Active immunization mainly we have inactivated vaccine and we have a live attenuated vaccine. Inactivated vaccine is a formalin inactivated vaccine which is grown in human diploid cell culture. Okay, and generally two doses of vaccine is given IM, and this is given 6 months apart. And the children are given vaccine after 12 months of age, and the vaccine can also be given to adults. And generally, it is recommended for the travelers who are traveling to a endemic area. Okay, so this vaccine is given mainly to the travelers. Okay. Now, attenuated vaccine is also available, and it is also grown on human diploid cell line. Single dose is there, subcutaneous, and it is mainly available in China. Okay. Now, hepatitis A virus vaccine is available in India, but it is not a part of national immunization schedule as of now. Okay. And there are some passive immunization also, which is available, and it is hepatitis A virus immunoglobulin that can be given. These passive immunization or immunoglobulin can be given whenever there is a exposure. Generally, it is given to close contact, intimate contact, and to the travelers. Okay, so basically we are giving preformed antibodies. So it is generally given after exposure. Okay. So now this was all about hepatitis A virus. Now coming to the hepatitis B virus. Now hepatitis B virus, as I told you, it is a DNA virus. Okay. So if we see the structure of hepatitis B virus, it is uh, enveloped virus. Okay. So it has the envelope, and after envelope there is a nucleocapsid which is a icosahedral in symmetry. Then there is a genome which consists of double-stranded DNA. Now, double-stranded DNA, you can see like positive strand of DNA is incomplete. So it is a circular DNA which is partially double-stranded. Okay, so it is a circular DNA which is there and it is a partially double-stranded. And here you can see the antigenic structure of hepatitis B virus. The outer structure is the envelope protein or the surface protein, which is HBs antigen. It is a hepatitis B surface antigen. Okay. Then there is a nucleocapsid, which has a core antigen, core protein, hepatitis B core antigen. And also there is another protein, which is hepatitis B pre-core antigen. Okay, so they are the part of nucleocapsid. So three main type of antigens are there. One is the surface antigen, and other two are the part of nucleocapsid. One is the core protein, which is hepatitis B core antigen, and another one is hepatitis B pre-core antigen. Okay. Then genome is double-stranded DNA, which is partially double-stranded because the positive strand is incomplete, and then there is an enzyme which is a DNA polymerase enzyme. Now, DNA polymerase enzyme of hepatitis B virus, it has mainly three properties. Okay, so it has basically DNA dependent DNA polymerase activity, that is DNA directed DNA polymerase activity. Okay, DNA dependent DNA polymerase activity. Second is it has a reverse transcriptase activity. So it has a RNA directed or RNA dependent DNA polymerase activity, which is reverse transcriptase activity. And third activity is RNase H. So this enzyme has three activities which are there, mainly DNA polymerase, reverse transcriptase, and RNase H activity. Okay. So this is the structure of hepatitis B. Now, this hepatitis B surface antigen can be seen when we see the serum of a patient who is infected with hepatitis B virus in the electron microscopy. Then this hepatitis B surface antigen can be seen in two forms. One is the spherical form and another one is a tubular form. Okay. Then in the serum of the same patient, complete hepatitis B and virus can also be seen, which is known as Dane particle. Okay, because it was first described by Dane and his co-worker. So here in the figure, you can see this one is signifying, it is telling us about the hepatitis B surface antigen spherical form. 2 is showing the tubular form, and the third one is the complete particle, which is a double shelled Dane particle. Okay. Now this hepatitis B surface antigen is also known as Australia antigen. Was previously called Australia antigen because it was first described in Australian originals, and it was first described by Bloomberg. Okay, so these are the main antigen that are the part of hepatitis B virus. Also, there is a antigenic diversity in HPS antigen. Okay, in the HPS antigen, there is a common surface antigen epitope, which is A. Okay, so it is a group specific. Then there are other type specific antigens which are generally present in pairs. Okay, वो pair में present होंगे. They are DY and WR. But in one patient, only one form will be present, either D or Y. So we have generally 4 antigenic types of hepatitis B surface antigen: A, D, W. Okay, A, Y, R, then A, W, R, and A, D, R. Okay, so there are 4 antigenic types of hepatitis B surface hepatitis B virus which can be seen, and in India it is overall in the world it is ADW, which is very much common. Okay, and in India it is the AYR, which is generally common. So here these are the different antigenic types of hepatitis viruses which are present in the which can be seen, and the importance of these types are mainly for the epidemiological purposes. So they are generally for the epidemiological purposes. Now, if we see the viral genome of these hepatitis B virus, there are different genes which are coding for different surface antigen. So there is S gene, C gene, P gene, and X gene. And there are further different regions in S gene which are coding for different proteins. Okay. So if we see the S gene, as I told you, there are S region, pre-S2 region, and pre-S1 region. Okay. So in this region, in this gene, there are 3 regions. If the translation is only occurring for the S gene, okay, then major protein will be formed. If the translation is starting from the pre-S2 region, then middle protein will be formed. Now this major and middle protein, they will be the part of hepatitis B surface antigen. Okay, and then there are uh, large proteins which are the part of virion itself, and if the translation is starting from pre-S1 and it is including pre-S2 and S region also, then large protein will be formed. Okay. Similarly, in the C gene, there are 2 regions. One is C region and another one is pre-C region. So if there is a translation of C region only, then only hepatitis B core antigen will be formed. And if the translation of pre-core region is also there along with the core region, then hepatitis B E antigen, that is pre-core antigen, will be formed. Then there is a P gene which codes for DNA polymerase, and then there is a X gene which codes for HBX antigen. This HBX antigen is mainly involved in oncogenesis. Okay, so liver cancer ke pathogenesis may probably there is a role. Now, there are 10 genotypes of hepatitis B virus, A to J, and in India, genotype A and D are very much common. So, D is more common than A. Okay, so this is about the viral genome of hepatitis B. Now, there are certain mutations. You don't need to go on detail, but there are mainly 3 kind of mutations which are seen in hepatitis B virus. One is a pre-core mutant in which the virus is unable to synthesize hepatitis BE antigen. So जो pre-core antigen है वो नहीं बनेगा in pre-core mutants में. Then there is a escape mutants in which जो common antigenic determinant है A epitope है, there is a mutation in that A epitope leading to mutation in which hepatitis B antigen जो होगा that will be absent, okay, or mutated. So there is a mutation leading to absence of hepatitis B surface antigen, and it is generally seen in some infants who are born to mothers who are having hepatitis B antigen in their serum. Okay, so those mothers who are positive for hepatitis B E antigen, the infants born to those mother will have escape mutants, and also this kind of mutation is seen in certain individuals who have undergone both combined immunization, both active and passive immunization. So this is the escape mutant, and then there is a YMDD mutation in which there is a resistance which is developed against lamivudine treatment in hepatitis B. So these are the main mutations which are seen in hepatitis B virus infection. So hepatitis B virus ka replication, if we see, as I told you, it is a partially double-stranded DNA. First, with the help of DNA-dependent DNA polymerase activity of the DNA polymerase enzyme, this partially double-stranded DNA, it will be converted into fully double-stranded DNA. Then this fully double-stranded DNA, it will transcribe into mRNA. One mRNA will act as a messenger RNA to form viral proteins, and another RNA can also act as a pre-genomic RNA. This pre-genomic RNA will get converted into DNA by the reverse transcriptase activity of this DNA polymerase enzyme, and this DNA will then combine with these viral proteins to form daughter virion. So this is how the replication of hepatitis B virus is there. Now, hepatitis B virus, it cannot be cultivated in the laboratory. However, its protein has been cloned in yeast and bacteria. The virus is inactivated or killed at 100 degrees for 5 minutes, and it is also sensitive to most of the common disinfectants as well as autoclaving. Now, the transmission of hepatitis, as I told you, most commonly it is by parenteral transmission. So, the transmission is mainly by the contaminated blood or blood products through blood transfusion, through needle stick injury. Okay, so contact with the blood or body fluids can lead to the transmission of hepatitis B virus. Now, the risk of the transmission of virus with a needle stick injury is maximum with the hepatitis B virus. It is around 30%. Okay, it is around 3% for HCV and 0.3 for HIV, whereas the risk is 30% with HPV. Now, perinatal transmission, it generally occurs shortly before or after the birth when there is a contact of the neonate, mucous membrane of the neonate with the blood of infected mother. So perinatal transmission is seen in case of hepatitis B virus infection. And then sexual transmission is also there in which the virus, because virus is also present in some body secretion. It is seen in semen, it is seen in vaginal secretion, so it can be transmitted sexually. So generally the high risk groups in case of hepatitis B virus infection are mainly the healthcare workers, right? The people who are getting blood transfusion or organ transplantation, then drug addicts, then sex worker. So all these groups are the high risk group for the hepatitis B virus infection. So these are the main three ways by which the virus can infect and transmit from one person to another. So the pathogenesis of hepatitis, it is immune mediated because this virus, it resides inside the hepatocyte. So it is mainly dependent upon cytotoxic T cell attack or antibody dependent NK cell. So there is, due to immune response, there is an injury to hepatocytes, which is leading to inflammation. Okay. So if we see the outcome of HPV infection after prolonged incubation period, there will be acute infection. The patient may present with the symptoms of acute hepatitis, in which the patient will have pre-icteric phase followed by icteric phase. Then most of the infection, around 90 to 95%, they will recover. Okay, and around 1 to 10% will further develop chronic infection. And in the chronic infection, patient may further develop chronic hepatitis, or patient may develop carrier. Okay, state. And in less than 1%, there is a fulminant hepatitis. So patient may have acute infection, patient may develop chronic infection leading to sometimes patient may present with chronic hepatitis, or there is a chronic carrier state in hepatitis B virus infection, in which the patient is asymptomatic but can transmit the infection. So if we see the immune response, humoral immune response, after the exposure, you can see that the first antigen which is produced in hepatitis B virus is hepatitis B surface antigen. So this antigen is the first antigen which is produced when in the serum. It is secreted in the serum whenever there is an infection due to hepatitis B virus. Then shortly after the appearance of hepatitis B surface antigen, hepatitis B antigen will be seen. Okay, so hepatitis B antigen will also be seen, and hepatitis B surface antigen will also be seen in the serum of the patient who are acutely infected with the hepatitis B virus. But hepatitis BC antigen, that is core antigen, it is generally not secreted in the serum of the patient. So it remains in the hepatocytes and it can be demonstrated with the help of immunofluorescence. Okay. So only hepatitis B surface antigen and hepatitis BE antigen is seen in the serum. So now this is the main antigen which will tell us about the infection. So hepatitis B, it will reach the peak and then it remains in the serum. Then at around 5 to 6 months of infection, it will decrease and it will reach the baseline. Okay. And after it reaches the baseline, here you can see there is the presence of anti-HBs antigen. So antibodies against HBs antigen will start rising. Okay, so hepatitis B surface antigen, it will reduce, it will come to the baseline, and then after 5 to 6 months, these anti-HBs antigen will be formed. So it shows the recovery phase. So whenever there is a presence of anti-HBs antigen, it means there is a recovery. Okay, hepatitis B surface antigen negative ho gaya and anti-HBs antigen aa gaya. Okay, now this HBe antigen, which is produced shortly after the appearance of HBs antigen in the serum. This hepatitis B antigen is mainly a marker of active replication. It shows that the virus is actively replicating inside the hepatocytes. Okay, and it whenever this antigen is present in the serum, it means that the patient is highly infectious. So it indicates HBe antigen. It indicates high infectivity and high or increased replication of the virus. Now, this HBe antigen, it can be present in acute infection, it can be present in chronic infection, it can be present in the carrier states. Okay, I will come to the carrier state. So, these hepatitis B antigen, it is only telling us that the patient is highly infectious and there is a very high replication of virus inside the hepatocytes. Once the hepatitis B antigen decreases, anti-HBe antigen titer will start rising in the serum. Okay, so presence of anti-HBe antigen in antibody in the serum, it denotes that now the replication has decreased and there is a low infectivity. Okay, then after the appearance, 1 to 2 weeks of appearance of HBs antigen, here you can see generally after 1 month, here you can see there is a presence of anti-HBC. So HBC antigen will not be seen in the serum, but antibodies against antibodies against HBC antigen can be seen. So anti-HBC will start rising. Initially, for 3 to 6 months, it will be for IgM type, then it will become IgG type. Okay, so in the acute infection, There will be presence of IgM anti-HBC antibody in the serum of patient who is infected with the hepatitis B, and in the chronic infection there will be presence of IgG antibodies. Okay. Then here you can see that there is a DNA polymerase activity in the initial stage of the infection. Okay, so the virus is replicating and DNA polymerase activity is also there, and HPV particles are also there in when the virus is replicating. Okay, so this is how the different markers of hepatitis B viral infection appear in the serum. So the first marker that will be appear will be hepatitis B surface antigen, and the first antibody that will appear in the serum will be IgM anti-HBC antibody. Okay. Then HBe antigen can be present in the serum. Its presence basically denotes that the patient is highly infectious and there is a high replication of the virus. Okay. Now, when the hepatitis B surface antigen it persists, this is the graph which is showing the markers in acute infection. Okay, so suppose if there is a hepatitis B surface antigen which is persisting for more than 6 months, okay, then we say that there is a chronic infection. Okay, so in chronic infection there is a persistence of hepatitis B surface antigen for more than 6 months. Okay, so then again we say that there is a carrier state in which the hepatitis B surface antigen will persist for more than 6 months, but generally the patient will be asymptomatic. Now, carrier can be of two types. One can be simple carrier, another one is super carrier. In the super carrier, there is a presence of HBe antigen. The patient, being a carrier, is highly infectious. There is increased replication. Patient is HBs antigen positive, HBe antigen positive. DNA and polymerase activity can also be seen. Okay, but in simple carriers, the replication is low, so HBe antigen is generally negative in case of simple carrier. So in super carrier, a small quantity of blood will be able to cause infection, to transmit infection. Whereas in case of simple carrier, large amount of blood will be needed for the transmission of infection. Okay. So the carrier rate, depending upon the carrier rate, the areas can be divided into low endemicity, intermediate endemicity, and high endemicity. Okay, so India falls in the category of intermediate endemicity, where the carrier rate is around 2% to 8%, and the humans are the only reservoir for hepatitis B infection. Laboratory diagnosis is mainly based on the viral or the antigen markers. As I told you, we can detect HBs antigen, HBe antigen, and hepatitis B core antigen. Now, hepatitis B core antigen will not be secreted in the serum. It can only be detected with the help of immunofluorescence in the liver cells. Okay. So generally, we rely on hepatitis B surface antigen and BE antigen. Detection of antibody markers in case of anti-HBs, anti-HBe, and it mainly depends upon the anti-HBC. We can also see viral DNA polymerase activity. We can detect DNA levels by PCR and certain biochemical tests in which we can see the raised liver enzyme. Okay, so various liver enzyme will be raised if there is a active hepatitis going on. So this is the table which is showing the presence of various serological markers. So in the early acute hepatitis, when the disease is incubating, only hepatitis B surface antigen will be there. So it is the first marker that will appear, and it will be present even before the appearance of symptoms. Okay, so hepatitis B surface antigen will be there in the early acute hepatitis when the patient is incubating. If there is acute hepatitis B surface antigen will be there with antibodies against hepatitis B core antigen, and it will be IgM type in acute hepatitis B. Okay, and if the infectivity is high, then HBe antigen will also be present. Okay, then in chronic hepatitis B, HBs antigen will be present because I told you it persists. It will persist for more than 6 months in chronic hepatitis also. HBs antigen will be there, and anti-HBC will be there, but now it will be of IgG type. And if it is of high infectivity, HBe antigen will be present. Okay. Now, if the chronic hepatitis B is there and low infectivity is there, then hepatitis B surface antigen will be present, IgG anti-HBC will be present along with anti-HBe. Now, HBe antigen will be not there. It will come to the baseline, and presence of anti-HBe antibodies will be there whenever there is a chronic hepatitis B infection with low infectivity. Similarly, in the super carriers, HBs antigen will be there. HBs antigen होगा, है ना? Then IgG antibodies will be there, HBC, along with HBe antigen, because they are super carriers and they are the virus is actively replicating. In the simple carriers, HBs antigen will be there, anti-HBC, IgG will be there because it is a chronic state, there is a carrier state. HBe antigen will not be there, and presence of antibodies against HBe antigen can be there or may not be there. So this is a simple carrier. Now in the recovery phase, if you remember that graph, in the recovery phase, I told you HBs antigen will come to the baseline. So it will not be detected in the blood, and presence of antibodies against surface antigen will be there in the recovery. Okay. So in recovery, mainly anti-HBs antibody will be there, antibody IgG against anti-HBC will be there, and antibodies against HBe antigen may be there or may not be there. So these two antibodies are there in recovery. Okay, IgG type, जिसमें recovery हो गई, and there is a anti-HBs antibody. Post vaccination, whenever a person is vaccinated, these vaccines are mainly for HBs antigen. HBs antigen we are using in the vaccination. So antibodies which are produced in the vaccination are against hepatitis B surface antigen. So during vaccination, only anti-HBs antibody will be seen in the patient. Okay, so only anti-HBs antibody will be there, no hepatitis B surface antigen or any other marker post vaccination. So this is very important chart where this is one of the most important questions and most common question which is asked about the laboratory diagnosis of hepatitis B virus infection. So you must know this chart and the graph that I showed you previously, and you will write about the various clinical outcomes and the various markers according to those clinical outcomes. Okay. So treatment is generally, as I told you, acute hepatitis B is self-limiting. Chronic hepatitis B infection we can give certain drugs like tenofovir or telvibutin. These are the antiviral agents of choice. Prophylaxis generally include general preventive measures in which we will basically uh, educate the high-risk group. We will follow certain precautions like precautions while injecting needles or taking blood samples or screening of blood products or organs before transplantation. So all these methods, all these precautions must be ensured. And the second one is immunization. Immunization, again, there is two type of immunization for hepatitis B virus. One is the active immunization, another one is passive immunization. In the active immunization, we are mainly using recombinant vaccine, which is basically prepared in baker's yeast. And as I told you, we are using hepatitis B surface antigen. Okay, so in this we are giving 3 doses, 1 ml at 0, 1 in 6 months, and it is generally given IM. And the protective titer of antibodies should be more than 10 million international units per ml. Then hepatitis B immunoglobulin can be given single dose, and the dose is generally 0.06 ml per kg. And there is a combined immunization also, which is given to neonates who are born to HPV infected mother. So in this case, we will give the single dose of passive immunization followed by complete dose of hepatitis B vaccine. So hepatitis C vaccine virus. Now coming to the hepatitis C virus, it is a RNA virus, as I told you. It is a single-stranded RNA virus with a positive sense genome. It belongs to family Flaviviridae, and there are at least 6 genotypes. So genotypically, genetically, it is a very diverse, and it has various subtypes. It does not grow in culture, and it has 3 structural proteins and 6 non-structural proteins. Okay, so this is a structure which is showing the structure of hepatitis C virus, and it is also a enveloped virus. Okay. Now the incubation period is around 15 to 160 days. Acute illness is generally mild or anictric. So most of the infections are generally subclinical, and 50 to 80% they progress to chronic hepatitis. And then further, some of them will develop cirrhosis and hepatocellular carcinoma. Some extrahepatic manifestations are also there, but they are generally due to presence of immune complex. So again, the transmission is mainly by blood transfusion, parenteral transmission, injections, and sexual transmission is less important. Vertical transmission may take place. Carrier rate is around 1 to 20%. So the transmission is same as that of hepatitis B virus. Now, laboratory diagnosis of hepatitis C virus, it mainly depends again on the presence of certain viral markers. So basically, we detect antibodies against the hepatitis C virus. So generally, we are using third generation ELISA, in which we are employing certain non-structural proteins of this virus, like NS5, along with NS3 and NS4. You don't need to go into detail, but you just remember that we are detecting HCV antibodies. Okay, these are basically total, because generally the hepatitis C virus infections are chronic infection. So we are detecting the total antibodies against HCV antigen. Okay, RIBA was initially used, previously used, but now it is not used. We can also detect HCV4 antigen. There are certain assays, like automated assays, or we can detect by ELISA, the core antigen assay, and detection of HCV RNA in the blood is the gold standard. So we will detect HCV antibody by ELISA, but presence of again HCV antibody will not differentiate between the past and the recent infection, and it will not tell us whether the patient, whether the virus is replicating or not, whether the disease is active or not. Okay, so for that we will need to see whether the HCV RNA is present in the blood or not. So if the HCV antibody comes positive, then we detect HCV RNA by PCR in blood. Okay, so this is mainly the gold standard. Also, detection of HCV RNA is important because we can monitor the treatment. The viral, we can do the quantitative viral load by PCR, and we can see whether the patient is responding to the treatment or not. Also, as I told you, there are 6 genotypes of hepatitis C virus. We can also we can also detect various genotype of hepatitis C. It is important because various therapies which are there, they are specific for specific genotypes, and also the prognosis of various genotype, it varies. So detection of genotype is also important in case of hepatitis C virus infection. There is no specific or active or passive immunization available for hepatitis C. The drugs currently that we are used are directly acting antiviral agents. Okay, and these DAA are the new agents which are there, and they are very effective, and the side effects are also very less. So the most recommended, the drug which is given for hepatitis C virus infection, the WHO recommended drug is this combination sofosbuvir and velpatasvir. This is a pan-genotypic. It means it acts on all the genotype of hepatitis C virus. Okay, so this is the treatment in brief. Now coming to the hepatitis D virus, it is a defective RNA virus. So RNA is negative sense circular virus. Okay, so circular RNA is there, and it is a negative sense RNA. It is a defective virus. It needs help of hepatitis B virus for its replication and for its expression. So circular single-stranded RNA will be there. Nucleocapsid port will be there, which will belong to this Delta virus, but the envelope will be of hepatitis B virus. So this virus will be covered by the envelope of hepatitis B virus, that is hepatitis B surface antigen. So this is a defective virus. It needs help of hepatitis B virus infection. It cannot cause infection in the patient alone. So Clinically, it either present as co-infection or super-infection along with hepatitis B virus infection. So co-infection means कि दोनों viruses present है, hepatitis B और delta का एक साथ transmission हो रहा है at the same time and same time they are causing infection. Super-infection means delta infection has, hepatitis B virus is already there in the patient. Okay, so patient is generally super carrier. So over that, this delta infection has occurred. So it mainly leads to serious and chronic infection, super infection. So it can either present as a co-infection or it can present as a super infection. Now, in the laboratory diagnosis, as I told you, there is a nucleocapsid antigen of hepatitis B virus. Uh, so it can be demonstrated in liver by immunofluorescence, but anti-delta antibodies will appear in serum that can be detected by ELISA. So anti-HDV IgM antibodies will be there, which will be IgM first, and then they will be replaced by IgG antibody later. Okay. Then certain DNA probes are also there for the identification of delta particles. Now, with the help of viral markers, we can also differentiate between co-infection and super-infection. So in the co-infection, since both the viruses, they are causing infection at the same time, so with the presence of IgM anti-HBC antibodies, IgM anti-HDV antibodies will also be there. And in the super-infection, since they are occurring mainly in the carriers, so anti-HBC will be of IgG type, but for the anti-HDV, there will be mixture of IgM and IgG. So with the help of viral markers, we can this way we can differentiate whether the infection is co-infection or super-infection. There is no specific prophylaxis for HPV. It is generally seen that immunization with HPV is effective because this virus needs help with infection of HPV, and screening of blood donors for HBs antigen should be there. And this virus is again transmitting by parenteral, and rarely it can also transmit by perinatal or sexual transmission. Now, the last virus is the hepatitis E virus. It is a spherical non-enveloped virus. It is single-stranded RNA virus, but it is a positive sense RNA. Okay. Provisionally, it is classified under Hepiviridae, and it is a part of non-A, non-B hepatitis. The source of infection is a fecal contamination of drinking water, and the secondary rate is around 2 to 3%. Secondary rate in hepatitis A virus is very high. It is around 20% as compared to hepatitis E virus. Now, clinical features, incubation period is around 2 to 9 weeks, and most cases, unlike hepatitis A virus, it occurs in young and middle-aged adults. Case fatality rate is around 1%, but it is high in case of pregnant women because, as I told you, the percentage of fulminant hepatitis in pregnancy in hepatitis E is very high. Laboratory diagnosis is mainly by immune electron microscopy in bile and feces, but again, it is not available. So we rely on certain serological markers like detection of antibodies against hepatitis E virus antigen. Okay, so what we can do, we can look for IgM antibodies in case of recent infection, and if there is a presence of IgM antibodies alone or along with IgG, then it means it is a recent infection. And if there is only presence of IgG antibodies, then it means there is a past infection. Then there is another virus, that is hepatitis G virus. It is basically related to hepatitis C virus, but its role in hepatitis is unclear. It mainly replicates in bone marrow and spleen. So it also transmits by contaminated blood or blood product or via sexual contact. And its high prevalence is seen in patients who are infected with HIV or HCV. HCV RNA can be detected in the blood sample, but again, its role in hepatitis is not clear. Okay, so the main viruses which are causing hepatitis are type A, B, C, D, and E. Then every year, July 28, it is observed as a World Hepatitis Day. So this was all about hepatitis viruses. So the key message from this session is that you should remember that what are the different types of viruses which are causing hepatitis, and what is the morphology of these virus, what are the which is the DNA virus, which is the RNA virus, what is the mode of transmission, which virus is being transmitted by fecal-oral route, or which virus is transmitted by parenteral transmission, and various serological markers for the various viruses. The laboratory diagnosis is very important, especially for hepatitis B virus. So you should remember that which viral marker is present in acute infection, which viral marker is present in chronic infection, and also a little bit about the immunization, which virus is vaccine preventable. Hepatitis A and hepatitis B, there is a vaccine available for these